Before we start, tell me in the comments what city you're watching from. Maybe you're someone who thinks success in life is just about being smart or working hard. Maybe you've been struggling for years, but you still feel like you can't catch that big breakthrough you've been searching for. By the end of this conversation, you'll understand how a verse written thousands of years ago reveals the secret behind the greatest successes in the modern world. And maybe you'll finally grasp why certain doors haven't opened for you yet. It was late 2008. Tesla was on the brink of bankruptcy. SpaceX had lost its first three rockets consecutively, and I was personally millions of dollars in debt. The media was portraying me as technology's biggest loser. During that period, sitting alone in my office late at night, there was an old Bible on my desk, one my grandmother had given me. That night, a page seemed to open by chance, and my eyes caught on a single verse. Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. Proverbs 19:21. Something changed in that moment. This verse wasn't just religious text. It was a formula explaining the true nature of success. People constantly make plans. So did I. A 5-year plan for Tesla, a 10-year plan for SpaceX, even a 50-year plan for Mars colonization. But this verse taught me something crucial. It's not the plans themselves, but the purpose behind the plans that matters. When I founded Tesla, my plan was simple: build luxury electric cars, then produce cheaper models. But what actually happened was completely different. Every obstacle, every setback, every crisis was actually serving a greater purpose. The 2008 financial crisis nearly killed Tesla, but it also forced the government to invest in electric vehicles. COVID-19 shut down our factories, but it also got people thinking about sustainable transportation. Let me tell you about a specific moment that crystallized this for me. In 2018, we were in what I called production hell with the Model 3. We were supposed to be producing 5,000 cars per week, but we were barely hitting 1,000. The media was calling it a disaster. Investors were losing faith. I was sleeping on the factory floor, trying to solve bottlenecks manually, working 20-hour days. My original plan was to have fully automated production lines that would work like clockwork. I had this vision of robots seamlessly assembling cars with minimal human intervention. But the reality was that our robots couldn't handle the complexity of car assembly the way I'd envisioned. Every day brought new problems: conveyor belt malfunctions, software glitches, parts shortages. I remember one particularly brutal night in April 2018. It was 3 a.m., and I was standing next to a malfunctioning robot that was supposed to install door handles. This robot had cost us millions of dollars, represented months of programming and testing, and it was failing at a task that a human worker could accomplish in 30 seconds. The robot kept missing the alignment, dropping handles, causing delays that cascaded through the entire production line. In that moment, I felt like my entire vision was crashing down. But then I remembered that verse. Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. Instead of forcing my original plan to work, I made a radical decision. We ripped out half the automation and brought in human workers. We created hybrid stations where humans and machines worked together in harmony. It wasn't what I had planned, but it was what worked. It was humbling to admit that sometimes human intuition and adaptability trumps even the most sophisticated programming. That decision didn't just save Model 3 production. It revolutionized our entire approach to manufacturing. It led to innovations in human-machine collaboration that we now use in all our factories worldwide, including the gigafactories in Berlin, Texas, and Shanghai. What seemed like a failure of my automation vision became the breakthrough that made Tesla the world's most valuable automaker. The failure of my original plan became the foundation for a better approach. Solomon's words tell us this: you plan, you work, you strive, but don't try to control the outcome, because there's a plan bigger than your plan. My biggest mistake was my ego. After selling PayPal, I thought I was the smartest person in the world. I can handle this, I thought. How hard could rocket science be? The first 3 SpaceX rockets exploded. Millions of dollars went up in smoke. That's when I realized the word human in many are the plans in a person's heart isn't coincidental. Humans are limited. Human ego is deceptive. Let me tell you about Falcon 1, Flight 4, the make-or-break moment for SpaceX. By September 2008, we had 3 consecutive failures. Each explosion was not just a financial disaster, but an emotional devastation. I had invested almost everything I had left from the PayPal sale. The team was demoralized. The media was brutal. Competitors were saying SpaceX would never succeed. I remember the day before the fourth launch, walking around the launch pad on Kwajalein Atoll in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. This tiny island, thousands of miles from anywhere, had become the site of either SpaceX's breakthrough or its funeral. The pressure was overwhelming. If that fourth rocket failed, SpaceX would have been finished. I had enough money for exactly one more attempt. My original plan when I started SpaceX was simple: buy a rocket from Russia, put a greenhouse on Mars. But when I went to Russia in 2001 to buy an ICBM, they literally spat on me. They thought I was some rich American tourist playing with rockets. That rejection forced me to think differently. Instead of buying a rocket, what if we built our own? What if we could make rockets reusable? Those ideas came from failure, from being forced to think beyond my initial assumptions. The fourth Falcon 1 launch was perfect, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. This doesn't mean my plans failed. It means my plans were being refined, tested, strengthened for a greater purpose. When the fourth rocket succeeded, it opened the door to everything that followed: Dragon, Falcon Heavy, Starship, Starlink. The modern world wants instant gratification. Social media, the stock market, news media, everything says, right now. But this Bible verse teaches us divine timing. When I launched the Tesla Roadster in 2008, people said it was too early. But now in 2025, every major car company is switching to electric. When I announced going to Mars with SpaceX, people thought I was crazy. Because that's how divine timing works. You plant the seeds, but you don't determine the harvest time. In 2012, I announced Tesla would build a massive battery factory, the Gigafactory. At the time, the entire world's lithium-ion battery production couldn't support our Model 3 goals. Everyone said it was impossible. You can't just create an entire industry, they said. But I had learned something profound from that Bible verse. Sometimes you have to start building before you can see the whole picture. Sometimes you have to act on faith that the pieces will come together in ways you can't yet imagine. We broke ground on the Gigafactory in Nevada in 2014. At the time, we didn't even have all the financing secured. We didn't have all the technology perfected. We didn't have confirmed suppliers for all the raw materials we would need. But as we started building, something remarkable happened. Suppliers who had been hesitant suddenly became interested when they saw we were serious. Technologies that seemed years away suddenly accelerated development timelines. Financing that seemed impossible suddenly became available as investors realized the scale of what we were creating. By 2020, the Gigafactory was catalyzing an entire ecosystem of battery production worldwide. What looked impossible in 2012 became perfect timing by 2020. When we worked on Neuralink in 2016, experts said we were 20 years too early. But I kept thinking about that verse. What if the timing wasn't about when the technology would be ready, but when humanity would need it? Fast forward to 2025. AI systems are becoming more powerful every month. Suddenly, brain-computer interfaces don't seem crazy, they seem necessary. The technology that seemed too early might be exactly what we need to remain relevant in an AI-dominated future. This verse teaches us, you are being prepared for the right time, in the right place, for the right purpose. Delays aren't obstacles, they're preparation periods. Being ousted from PayPal, Tesla's production problems, SpaceX rockets exploding, all seem like failures at the time. But looking back, every failure was actually a necessary lesson for the next level. Let me tell you about my most painful failure that turned into an unexpected blessing. In 2000, While I was on my honeymoon in Australia, the board of X.com, which later became PayPal, voted me out as CEO. They did it while I was literally on my honeymoon, enjoying what should have been the happiest time of my life. I was devastated. This was my company, my vision, my baby. I had worked 18-hour days for 2 years to build X.com into a real competitor to the established financial institutions. And now my own board was telling me I wasn't capable of leading it to the next level. The official reason was that they wanted more experienced management for the next phase of growth. The real reason, I suspect, was that my vision for X.com was too big, too ambitious, too disruptive for their comfort level. I wanted to create a complete financial services platform, not just payments, but savings, investing, loans, insurance. I wanted to replace the entire traditional banking system with something built for the internet age. At the time, being forced out felt like the end of the world. But looking back, I realized it was exactly what I needed. If I had remained as PayPal CEO and achieved my financial services vision, would I ever have started Tesla or SpaceX? That failure freed me from the comfortable path and forced me toward the impossible path. Even the Twitter acquisition, widely seen as my biggest mistake, was actually serving a greater purpose. It wasn't just a social media platform, but the public square of the internet. Buying Twitter was a civilizational decision about preserving free speech and human agency in a digital age. Solomon continues, "A person's steps are directed by the Lord. Every step, every mistake, every lesson, they're all part of the bigger plan. You can't see where your current difficulties are preparing you, but they are preparing you. It is the Lord's purpose that prevails." This isn't just about individual success. This is about creating lasting impact. Tesla isn't just a car company. It transformed the automotive industry. SpaceX isn't just a rocket company. It democratized space exploration. When your work serves something larger than yourself, you tap into what the Bible calls the Lord's purpose. Let me tell you about a moment when this became clear. In 2019, we successfully landed 2 Falcon Heavy boosters simultaneously. Watching the crowd's reaction, thousands cheering, crying, kids jumping with excitement, I realized we hadn't just launched a rocket, we had launched hope. We had given people a vision of humanity as explorers of the cosmos. Tesla's mission isn't to sell cars, it's to accelerate sustainable energy. SpaceX's mission isn't to launch rockets, it's to make humanity multiplanetary. Neuralink's mission isn't brain implants. It's preserving human agency in an AI age. Here's the success formula this Bible verse taught me. First, plan and work hard, but don't try to control the outcome. Hold your plans lightly. Be prepared to adapt. The goal isn't perfect execution, it's remaining aligned with purpose as circumstances change. Second, set your ego aside. You're part of a bigger plan. Your gifts are meant to serve something larger than your own recognition. When you stop trying to be the hero of your story, you become available for a much bigger story. Third, trust in divine timing. Everything has its season. Don't despair when you seem ahead or behind. The right timing isn't about market conditions. It's about when humanity needs what you offer. Fourth, learn from failures. They're preparing you. Every setback is curriculum. Extract maximum learning from every failure so you're prepared for the next level. Fifth, create lasting impact. Think beyond yourself. Ask, does this serve human flourishing? Does this create value beyond my lifetime? Does this contribute to human progress? What does this verse mean in your life? Share in the comments. Are you fighting divine timing or learning to work with it? Are you holding plans too tightly or open to a bigger purpose? If this conversation changed something in you, share it with someone seeking success. Share it with someone struggling with failures that might be preparation. Share it with someone waiting for permission to think bigger. Remember, you're not just making plans, you're becoming part of a greater plan. The question isn't whether you're smart or strong enough. It's whether you're humble and patient enough to discover your role in the larger story of human progress. That Bible verse changed everything for me. Maybe it will change everything for you too. When we worked on Neuralink in 2016, experts said we were 20 years too early. The technology was primitive. The public was horrified. Every neuroscientist said it was impossible to create a safe brain-computer interface. But I kept thinking about that verse. What if the timing wasn't about when the technology would be ready, but when humanity would need it? I remember those early meetings with potential employees. We were asking the world's best neuroscientists to join a startup that wanted to put computer chips in people's brains. It sounds completely insane, but here's what I learned from that Bible verse. Sometimes the most important work begins long before anyone can see why it's necessary. We started developing the technology while people thought we were wasting time on science fiction. Fast forward to 2025. AI systems are becoming more powerful every month. Suddenly, brain-computer interfaces don't seem crazy. They seem necessary. The technology that seemed too early might be exactly what we need to remain relevant in an AI-dominated future. At the time, being forced out of PayPal felt like the end of the world. But looking back, I realized it was exactly what I needed. That failure freed me from the comfortable path and forced me toward the impossible path. The board wasn't rejecting me personally. They were redirecting my energy towards something bigger. That rejection pushed me to ask, what are the biggest problems facing humanity? How can technology solve existential challenges? Without that painful exit from PayPal, I might never have focused on sustainable energy or space exploration. I wouldn't have been working on the problems that really matter for our species' survival. When I bought Twitter for $44 billion, everyone thought I had lost my mind. The media called it ego-driven, but Twitter wasn't just a social media platform. It was the public square of the internet, controlled by people who didn't believe in free speech. Buying Twitter was a civilizational decision about preserving the conditions that allow human consciousness to flourish in a digital age. Sometimes you have to make decisions that look insane to everyone else because you can see a purpose they can't see yet. In February 2018, we launched Falcon Heavy with my Tesla Roadster in space, complete with Starman playing David Bowie. People thought it was a publicity stunt, but we were sending a message. The future doesn't have to be boring. We can be playful and serious at the same time. When those boosters landed simultaneously, I watched the crowd cheering, crying, kids jumping with excitement. I realized we hadn't just launched a rocket. We had launched hope. We had given people a vision of humanity as explorers of the cosmos, not just consumers confined to one planet. Subscribe. If these conversations help you understand that success isn't about executing perfect plans, but about aligning with purposes bigger than yourself and trusting in divine timing. And remember, you're not just making plans, you're becoming part of a greater plan.